watching the DVD when I was younger, and now all of a sudden I'm here. Do it. It's once in a lifetime opportunity. Well, Sam, you can't believe you can fly 10 hours across the world and still be sat next to an Englishman.
I know, yeah.
Well, we know that GRASSMEN have had quite a lot to do with Frederick harvesting in the past. 2019, Gareth and a few lads came over and obviously filmed the DVD, and you've done a few YouTube videos since then, haven't you?
Yeah, on and off, and a couple of interviews and things. They came over before it was in wheat harvest, so now we're in fall harvest, which is mostly corn for us, which is what we're cutting now. And
5 years later, me, Connor and Craig are the lucky lads that get to come out and see it for our own eyes and meet you guys. It's quite mad for me really, because I remember watching the DVD when I was younger, and now all of a sudden I'm here making a video.
Now you're in it.
It's just like, you're into the corn, correct me if I'm wrong, is this sort of towards the end of your journey now?
No.
Or?
Well, it's the beginning of fall, it was the end of wheat harvest was 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And so we're just now getting started. We're about a third, a little over the way through on this guy, and we'll have enough corn to keep us going probably till Thanksgiving, which is like mid to end of November.
Right, okay, so you finish all the wheat off, you get that out of the way, and then the corn starts, and this takes you straight up to...
Yeah, until we get home basically,
right.
Or close to. Wheat finishes in North Dakota end of August, beginning of September, and then fall harvest starts here for us in southwest Kansas about middle of September normally. It's been slightly earlier this year actually, compared to normal, whatever normal is anymore, and it's pretty hot for this time of year.
Oh, it's hot. We're not used to this. They've had their first frost at home this week. Here we are in the boiling sun.
Hot. And it'll switch, the temperature swings, or it'll go cold very quickly and then come back warm again, or the other way around.
Oh, it changes like that, does it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it'll swing 20 degrees in Fahrenheit in an hour.
Has there been any major changes, really?
Not since last time. We're probably running different wheat headers. We're running hinged flex drapers now instead of rigid flex drapers, which are better on uneven ground for wheat. But corn is pretty much the same. This is actually a new job we've not cut before, so that's why there's 3 combines running here and 3 grain carts. This guy has close to 50 circles of corn.
So you're still going up in the acres?
Yeah, slightly on the fall harvest, yeah.
So you're still sort of sticking to your traditional ways then? You're still running the S780s for corn?
Yeah. S780s and 16-row corn heads, which is a 40-foot, 12-metre header for corn, and most of wheat is done with 770s. Yeah, the 780 has the bigger engine, has a 13.5 instead of a 9-litre, so a little more power and a little more cleaning area. You can get quite a little bit more done. I'd say probably 20%, 25% more done in corn with a 780 over a 70.
You notice quite a difference in that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So do you still change the machines every season?
Mm-hmm. We are up to now, yeah. It's these, I don't know what's on here, about 30 or 40 hours probably. This is the first work it's done. So they were new in the summer and the 70s were new in the spring. So we still use a few for fall, but we run mostly 780s in the fall. 5 of them.
Have you noticed a change in the machines in the last 5 years, moving forward?
Not huge. The biggest thing is the screen in here. The G5 is the first time this year for that.
Tell us a bit about that then.
It's essentially the same as the Gen 4, but it's bigger. And so there's more real estate, as they call it, to put more information on. We've got all these different pages to show us what we got. You can see the grain tank levels of other combines, and you've shared totals for how many acres you've done and what the yield is and what the moisture is for a certain field. But essentially it's the same screen. The biggest change will be next year when they have a different cab. They'll have the X9 style cab next year. Over this one this has been on the S series for a long time, this cab.
So what's different to the new cab then?
It has the new seat, basically the same as the tractor has.
Right. Oh, you just want the massage seat?
Yeah, I just want the massage seat, yeah. I'm not interested in anything else. But other than that, they'll be pretty similar. I mean, they have more technology as far as ground speed automation and automatic settings go, but that's the biggest change, is probably the cab. The insides are the same combine and have been for quite a while.
So you're still John Deere through and through then?
Yeah, we are. And I guess something we're using here is machine sync. So right now the tractor is locked to the combine. If I speed up, the tractor speeds up. If I slow down, the tractor slows down. And if I want to move him, I just nudge him with these buttons.
That is mad.
To fill the grain cart to the level I want, and then I just shut it off.
So that's a new thing in the last couple of years then?
Yeah, that is. That we've got it on all the machines. We've tried it quite a few times, but
so the lads just drive alongside the combine and then you take over?
Yeah, he drives into this little orange box here, and once he's in the box he hits his auto track button like you would do to engage on an auto track line, and then it locks it to the combine, and he does nothing. It just matches the speed of the combine, or you can nudge him back and forwards on the buttons there. Or I've got one set up on the back of the handle here that does the same thing, which it's actually pretty nice, to be honest.
So again, you're getting a step closer to these tractors driving themselves?
Yeah, they're awful close. I mean, it's just a switch really. They do most of it already. It's just a case of making it work, but it's pretty close, to be honest.
So we know that you demoed an X9. Why can't we see a field full of X9s yet then?
Well, a few things. For a harvester, they're too big really. Our average week run, you can't go fast enough to keep it full. You'd have to reduce the amount of combines, which means you can't keep as many customers happy at the same time. You can keep more people happy you can keep 3 farmers happy with 3 combines. You can only keep 2 happy with 2 X9s. Even though you may get the same amount done, it doesn't keep people happy. They're heavier to haul. Now in corn, you could probably change this job and switch it from 3 780s to 2 X9s and probably do the same thing. But again, it gives us more flexibility if we have more machines really. So they've got their place, but it tends to be in tougher, higher yielding crops than this sort of corn and wheat. And
you're still running the 8 series tractors on chaser bins?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about those chaser bins and that setup then.
So we've got a mixture of 8 R370s and 8 R340s. And we have grain carts. We've got a couple of 1396s and a couple of 1196s. The 11 and the 13 is how much it holds. So an 11 is 1100 bushels, which is about, depending on what it is, 27, 28 ton maybe. And the 1300 holds a little more, so maybe 35, 38 ton maybe. But the 1100s work pretty good. We're putting about 60,000 pounds on a grain cart, and that gets taken to the truck because that's all they can fit in anyway.
Oh, so that works quite well.
That works pretty good.
The grain cart fills the truck.
Mm-hmm. And then they just come back and get another load. But they're fairly busy in corn, and you need a grain cart per combine in corn to move, whereas in wheat, in most of the wheat we cut, one grain cart will keep 5 combines, 6 combines maybe going, depending on what it's yielding.
So whereabouts are we on your journey at the moment then?
We are in Hugoton, Kansas, which is southwest Kansas.
How much further have you got to go? So, talking your journey, the distance you cover, how sort of far are we?
Very close. This is local.
Oh, right. This is still quite close to home.
Yeah. We're only about 3.5 hours from Oldham here.
So how far from base do you boys travel then?
Well, we start in southern Oklahoma and finish in North Dakota, south central North Dakota, which is where we were 2-3 weeks ago maybe, end of August. And that's about 750 miles from home probably. It's a 2-day trip with oversized loads. So this is relatively close, and from here we'll go about another 100 miles west, which is southeastern Colorado, a place called Walsh, and that's where we'll finish our fall harvest. We're much closer to home for fall harvest than than we are for wheat. And Zane is up in Lexington, Nebraska, which is also not that far away, maybe 4 or 5 hours perhaps from home. So we're pretty local for fall harvest, which is nice.
We saw you do a 15-mile move this morning.
Mm-hmm.
How far can you go without taking a single header off?
Oh, we'll cut this entire job without taking a header off, which is close to 6,000 acres. Plains is the same east of here.
So you just have to stick to the back dirt roads, do you?
Yeah, but most parts you can get through. It's a little more tricky with a wider header, but for the most part, if we don't know where we're going, we'll try and drive it first. That route we did this morning, I drove with the pickup first in case, on the way to the field, in case we can't get through and then we're stuck.
Oh, so you check it out?
Know where to go. So a lot of the time, if I don't know where I'm going, I'll check it out first.
How does your staffing work then? Do your lads come over for the whole season?
Yeah, generally we need
journey?
more people for fall harvest than we do in wheat, and so we'll have the core group of about 20 or 25 during the summer, and then we'll get extra people to run during the fall because we need more trucks and more grain carts, but actually less combines. We'll have extra people just for the couple of 3 months that we're going to cut corn. So that beep and that goes blue, so that's the tractors. The tractor's controlled by the combine now. So if I slow down, the tractor's going to slow down too. It just stays in the same place.
That is
it's pretty clever, and then you just nudge them forwards or backwards.
As you want to fill the front and the back, you just nudge him on the arrows, don't you?
Yeah, and you nudge him side to side too, but once you've got, they call it a home point, he'll always sit to the same point every time when he comes back.
Right.
And so
and then you just work from there?
Just work from there. So a lot of the time, the side to side we don't have to mess with. We just go forwards and backwards, but there's programmable buttons on the handle, so we have the buttons set up so I can just nudge it on my finger instead. It's too much work to pick your hand up and push the screen.
So let's talk trucks then, Sam, because we know that you've always ran the older trucks. Is that still the case?
Yeah, still the same trucks. We have a couple of newer ones, but yeah, they're not traded every year like combines are. We just tend to maintain the trucks that we have. Running all the dirt roads and the rough roads that we run, a new one's going to break as much as an old one, and so it just doesn't work for us to trade trucks all the time. So we got pretty much the same fleet of trucks. It takes probably 12 to 15 trucks to keep these three combines going. Ordinarily, we have about 4 or 5 of our own here. I think 4. The farmer runs 5 of his. He has his own trucks, and then he hires in other guys. So we've got help trucking it here because we don't have enough trucks to do it, and we certainly don't have enough people to drive all those trucks. So we have to hire extra trucks in when we want to haul off a job like this.
Are they still mainly Kenworth then?
Mm-hmm. Or Kenworth. Got one little Pete service truck, Peterbilt, but that's just a little service truck, a 4-door. But other than that, yeah, still all Kenworth.
So would you get through most of the corn season using your own trucks, or how often would you have to hire outside boys in?
Most of the time we do our own. So over in Plains, I mean, there's one guy helping us over there in Plains at the moment because we've had to put people over here. We used to have more people in Plains, and now we need them here instead. They're a little bit shorter than they would be normally, so there's a guy helping us truck over there. So here, and we have some help over in Walsh, but this would be the most help we'd have, probably 4 or 5 plus the farmer's trucks. And you see that saves the farmer a little bit of money on the price too, because he's hauling some of the grain himself. So all the irrigators are shut off for the most part, so his guys can drive truck, and that just saves him a little bit. And it works well because we haven't got the capacity to haul it all anyway. That works pretty good.
Those are still running the old, is it 13-speed gearboxes in those?
Yeah, most of them are so there's 13-speed manuals, and then there's a few autos.
So my name's Luke Adams, from the UK, from the Midlands, about half an hour away from Birmingham really, so pretty central. I've been with Frederick's for just over probably about 6 months now. Came over in April and go back in December time roughly. I'm a truck driver. This is my truck here. So we're going from the field to the ethanol plant currently at the minute, and we're going to the mills, so the elevators, feedlots, and sometimes it will go into some bins as well. So this is corn. This is high moisture corn. It's going into the ethanol plant, and it's been used for fuel and then obviously animal feed. So this is a Kenworth T800. It's 2008. It's got a Cummins 475 engine in it, and I've had it pretty much from May onwards really, and I'll probably be in it till the end really, till December. So really I've been driving trucks for nearly 6 years now. Passed my truck test back home when I was 18. Been driving ever since really for my dad, and then obviously I come out here, told them that I had experience back home, just went from there really. They wanted me on the truck, because they thought I'd get the job done, and here we are today. Just for the different experience, really. You know, my experience I learn over here, I can take home and sort of try and integrate them at home, maybe, like with the low loaders. Never done oversize at home. My first job out here was an oversize. So it's the experience really that I can take home and build the company further back at home whenever I'm handed the business. Some of the challenges are the dirt roads really, and just whenever the weather, and making them pretty hard and tough to get down, to be honest. Other than that, really, that's the only challenge really. We're ag exempt, so we haven't got to fill in a logbook or anything like that. And then some other pros really, just easier driving, a lot less traffic, roads are wider, easier to drive on, and a lot more comfier and cooler. Again, it's got its pros and cons. The manual, if you're stuck on a dirt road, you can use the clutch and try and rock yourself out, whereas at home, it's a lot more difficult with an automatic. But personally, I do prefer a manual if I was to go home and have another truck. So for any young fella coming out, 100% do it. It's once in a lifetime opportunity. If you're offered it, grab it, embrace it as much as you can. If you're not sure, always ask a question. Just enjoy yourself, and you'll always meet new people out here and make new friends, experience and whatnot. Over here, obviously, yes, Kenworth, but I mean, out here a Scania wouldn't last 6 months. I'll just say it how it is. But then going back home, you got the long motorway cruises, so Scania or MAN really. Right boys, it's raining, so I've got to get this load off to the ethanol plant now and get the truck out the field so we don't get stuck.
You've still got a few talented drivers around the place.
Most guys all want to drive a manual, but they're harder to find. Good ones used, it seems there's more automatics about. And they have their place, but everybody prefers to drive a manual once they get used to trucking.
Keeps you awake, I'd imagine.
Keeps you awake, yeah. Makes you a real truck driver.
Do you run any automatics then, or you do?
There's 2-pedal automatics, which is like a pickup. You know, there's no clutch. And then we have automatics that auto shifts, which have an automatic shift, but you still got to put your clutch down to put it in gear. Still got a regular clutch. It's like a manual gearbox with an automatic thing stuck on the top of it, rather than an automatic like a car would be.
Do you notice much of a difference then between those?
Yeah, the 2 pedals are probably, it depends. They're easier to control because you've got a clutch still, rather than just spinning the wheels out, but either of them will get stuck in the sand. They're just not as good as a manual when you're in muddy or sandy conditions, but we just try not to go where they're not going to get stuck. You'll notice a lot of the dirt roads down here are pretty sandy.
Yeah, I'd imagine they turn to mud as soon as it rains.
Well, they do, yeah. See, it's sometimes, if it's actually very sandy, it turns better. You mean you're walking on the beach, which is easier to walk on, the wet sand or the dry sand?
Well, yeah, the wet sand.
Yeah. And so if it's really sandy, actually, sometimes it's better, but yeah, it'll turn to slop quite quickly if you let it, if it rains hard.
And then you just feel like you're at home again.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So you're running duals on everything?
Yeah, run duals on everything, and yeah, duals other than that front combine, they got skinny tyres on the back that run down the row. That's really what it's for. Most things here are used at some point in their life for row crop, which is down a 30-inch row, and so the tyres get tore up really bad if we run fat tyres. You need something called a stalk stomper a lot of the time, otherwise it's going to just going to chew the tyres up really bad.
So your GPS is set to run in between the...
Yes.
Yeah.
So the GPS line is set, and also it's got row sense feelers on one row, which you'll see when I pick it up there. This row here, look, see there's got those little hoops.
Yeah.
So that follows, that tweaks the GPS line and makes sure it stays on the row. That feels the corn stalks to make sure we snap to the right line. The GPS and all the sharing, all the combines know where all the other combines are at any one time, and it shares the yield data and the map into the screen. It's pretty connected. So one guy set this GPS line and then it sends it to everybody else. So everybody's travelling on the same line. Makes a lot of difference.
That's the same for the tractors as well?
Well, yes, in theory, but because they run machine sync, they don't need a line.
They don't, yeah.
But before machine sync, yeah, they would use that same line, and then they know the headings. Everything's just a heading, a compass heading, 0 to 360. And you can pull in and you just guess what the heading is, and this is 135, and that's what they've just decided to plant on. And sometimes they'll plant it on an angle, some people say the difference, the way the light gets down the rows when the sun's coming up and down, or the way the wind blows here. So there is theory to why they might plant it one direction or another. And you can see everybody up there, everybody's name pops up on the screen, so you can see where everybody's at and what they're doing, and which is pretty handy. In the dark,
that is handy, isn't
very
it?
good.
So is that the same for the tractors? And they're set to run in between the runs as well, are they?
Well, actually, to be in the right place, they're sitting on the row.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, but In theory, yes, it's to run down the row. And when they're driving about the field, they do. But it's normally when you're in a combine, it's just sitting for half a mile at a time on that same stalk. You know, it's just pounding it the whole time. The tractor's not quite so bad because it's moving around. When during using a grain cart, if you were working the ground, then you'd want to be down the rows. Otherwise, you're going to tear your tyres up. So a lot of the time, they'll strip till this ground after we've cut it, but they might split the row, which means they'll just move this 30-inch row 15 inches that way.
Right.
And they'll plant in the gap. But that means that the tractor's running on the stalk, so they'll have these big rollers or stalk stompers on the front of the tractor to push the stalk over so it doesn't tear your tyres up. Tracks are worse probably than tyres because they're wider a lot of the time. They do narrow tracks, but most of the time you want a track wider to float over the mud.
Would that be a downside to an X9 then, would it? Or?
Where you can get an X9 on duals.
You can't spec them on duals.
Yeah, but I think they're like 650s. I think they're quite fat duals because of the weight. But yeah, tracks are also heavier. We couldn't haul an X9 on our combine trailers. We can't haul a tracked machine on our combine trailers.
It's
just
not practical, is it?
For a harvester, it's just not. Now, a farmer's machine, that's just different. And some people make them work, but for our run and where we go and what we do, it just doesn't work for us right now. See, so we cut this pivot out first, see? This is the irrigator, it's moving towards us right now. See, it was off on an angle to the rows. And we have to cut those straight rows out, and then we set the pivot going, and so it walks out of our way, so we can cut the corn on the other side, yeah. So, but we have to actually hustle, because otherwise the thing's going to get back into this row here if we're not careful.
Right. You have to work around them all the time, don't you?
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So is most of the corn irrigated over here then, is it, or does it just depend on the farmer?
Depends on the farmer. All this guy is irrigated. He has some dry land, but we cut a little bit of wheat, but it's mostly irrigated. He has around 60 or so plus circles, 65 or something circles. Some were in wheat that we cut in the summer, and some were in corn, and some I think he had some alfalfa maybe, or some hay on some of them. So he does a bit of a rotation, but most of the corn we cut down here is irrigated. It just doesn't rain enough for dry land. If it rains at the right time, you can make dry land work, but it doesn't. It's not the norm. It just doesn't get enough rain.
So this job we're on now, what acreage would this be altogether?
We'll cut around 5,800 of corn here, roughly, on this guy.
And that's about 50 circles, you say?
A little less of 50, I think it is, yeah, maybe 47, 48. It's roughly 125 acres a circle. That's what's under the pivot. That's what gets watered out of what is a quarter, which is 160. So yeah, they're not all in corn, he farms slightly more than that, but the bulk of it is corn.
How big would your average circle be then? What sort of sizes are they?
125 acres. 120 to 125 is a circle. Now there's big circles too, where the pivot is half a mile long. That's 525 under a pivot. But normally what you call a circle is 125, 120, 125.
I bet those pivots aren't cheap to run though, are they?
No, for the most part they run on 3-phase electricity. Where there's no electricity, they'll have like an engine and a generator to make the electricity, but yeah, they're 480 volts, 3-phase electric. And then you've got to use electric to run the pump a lot of the time to pump the water. So yeah, electricity's quite a big cost, especially in the last 2 or 3 years.
I bet they wouldn't be cheap to put in either.
No, there'd be $100,000, maybe $120,000, depending on what spec you wanted and how big it was. And the water's that hard here that they just rot. I mean, about 10 years and they're done if it's rotten through. So some of them are called poly spans. The pipe is lined with poly, and so they last longer. A lot of the time they will wear out, but like the pipe will wear out before the rest of it because the water's just so corrosive.
So did you say Lance is still quite involved, obviously, is he? Or?
Yeah, he's still involved. It's still him and Drew, but he's at home now on the farm. So this is the first year he did not go on harvest. Him and his wife Lynette, and so.
Has he had enough of living out of caravan?
I think so, yeah. And he likes to travel and do stuff, and the farm's getting quite a bigger deal now at home. It takes more running, and so he sort of just leaves us to it. And between Zane and I, for the most part, and a few other guys, Maddie and Timmy and James, we sort of look after it between us now. But he's always on the end of the phone, and he still has the final say. But he mostly just leaves you to it, to be honest. He's very good. He's always said, just make a decision and go with it. He's always told us. Making a wrong decision is better than making no decision at all. So, yeah, that's what we tend to go by.
Tell us a bit about the farm itself then.
Yeah, so Zane's brother Zach, Lance's brother Drew are on the farm all the time. And then they have Martin, who's from the Netherlands actually. He's been on the farm for a few years. It's roughly around 12 to 13,000 acres now, the farm and a home. So it's quite a bit going. They're also cutting corn back there at the moment. Still, they're cutting corn on the farm at home.
So how many combines do you run in the corn altogether then?
Well, right now there's probably, if there's 2 at home, there's 2 in Plains, 4, 3 here. 7. We park some around so we can have some parked up for beans, maybe some wheat ones that we've had, so we got the luxury of being able to just have a combine sitting there if we need it with a header, and if we want to go cut beans or we want to go back to corn, we can shuffle around a bit. But so I would say right now there's 7 running. Oh, 8 here with Zane.
And how do you work that then? Do you just stick in your separate teams, or?
For the most part, yeah, we try and stick. Hugoton is close enough to Plains that we can switch about a little bit. If somebody's not doing anything, we can shuffle about a bit, and between home even still. But for the most top part, we keep this group has stayed the same. It's 4 trucks, 3 combine guys, and 3 grain carts, and this group's just stayed the same. It's consistent, and people tend to know what's going on. But we will shuffle here and there when we need to. If Matt has a spare truck over in Plains, he'll just send it over here for the day, or it's only about 40 minutes away, or the same the other way around. But right now, the bulk of the acres is still here, so until we get further down the acres for this guy, we won't do much shuffling. We'll just try and knock some corn down, or at least until we get caught up with moisture or it rains.
And the harvest itself, Sam, the years you've been doing it, have you noticed much of a change over time? You know, talking crops and...
Yeah, we cut less wheat, more fall crop than we used to. People have changed their rotations, the weather's changed, corn hybrids have changed, you know, the varieties enable people to grow corn where they might not have been able to before due to water or disease or pests, you know, bugs killing it. So yeah, we're cutting less wheat, and probably more in the long term, in the last 10 years for sure. End up cutting more fall crops and less wheat. So South Dakota, for example, used to be all wheat. There wasn't ever fall crop in South Dakota a long time ago, and now it's half probably, I'd guess. Fall crop, it used to just be all wheat.
Where do you think that's going to go moving forwards?
I don't know. I mean, water, it's all governed by water. This is all well water that's pumped out of the ground, and so if something changes with that, or they're not allowed to pump, or they run out of water, that's what will change this and changes the crop. I mean, milo or sorghum is actually the most drought tolerant thing at the moment to grow, and that's what, before irrigation, that's what a lot of this country would have been milo growing.
I've seen quite a lot of sorghum about.
Yeah, there's a lot of sorghum about. This guy actually has some, but a local farmer cuts it, so which is fine by us. You can drag out sorghum sometimes. It's like trying to cut wheat in fall when it's cold and damp. You still got to worry about the moisture all the time, and so we'll let the farmer cut that for him, which works best for both of us. And yeah, I don't know where it's going to go. I just don't know. The weather's a big deal too. The weather's way different to it used to be. Most of the severe weather used to be in the spring, like tornado season. It's tornado alley, you know, thunderstorms and that sort of thing. And actually we've been having them in the fall now too, at this time of year, because it's been warmer. It ordinarily wouldn't be quite this warm at this time of year. It's starting to cool off a little, and it's starting to cool off at nights, but it's still 90 plus in the day, you know, mid-30s or whatever that is.
And it never would have been like this time of year?
No, didn't seem to be, no. It seemed to be cooler.
That'll have quite a knock-on effect though.
Yeah, I don't know what, but yes. But just change the growing patterns and the seasons and everything. It's all the weather really. And not places aren't getting as much rain sometimes as they used to be.
So what sort of output are you getting out of this machine then?
This is corn acres are good here. This is my instant bushels per hour. 1,000 bushels about a truckload, give or take. That's a grain cart, a truckload, it's about 1,000 bushels. So on a field average, 31, I would say probably 4 to 4,500 an hour per machine. So it's about 12 loads an hour, maybe 12 to 14 if you're moving. Depends on how fast you can go and what the corn is yielding. This is a bit less here because the corn isn't yielding quite so high, but we've seen 5,000 and 6,000 bushels an hour in that last field we were in.
So overall, you're happy with your machine? There's anything you'd change?
Well, not right now, no. There's a few niggly bits on the screen, but we work closely with John Deere to deal with stuff like that, and if there's problems, we let them know and they tweak things. But no, for the most part, it's pretty good. They got it pretty good, other than the massaging seat, which we're waiting for next year.
Just run us through the stick and
Oh,
everything there, Mike.
Well, the hydro handle is your speed and your direction. You push it further, it's going to go forward and faster, and you pull it back, that's the neutral gate. And then up on the top, your yellow button's like an emergency stop. And then these 1, 2, 3 buttons are your header height control. So I hit 2 and that'll float at my preset height along the ground. It's got sensors on the floor, and so it maintains a stubble height. 1 is I have programmed to be pick up at the end, and 3 is programmed for low. So if I've got some short corn, I can put the header a bit lower.
Did you change those there?
Yeah, you can change. You can program those 1, 2, 3 to however you want. Some people put it the opposite way round, but I have it this way. So 1 is up and 2 is down, basically. And then you've got the manual controls of the header here. Tilt left and right and up and down. It's just the manual version of this. This here is, on a wheat head, that's your wheel. Fore and aft and up and down. On a corn head, that changes. You've got 2 settings. You've got deck plates, and you've got your back shaft speed, which controls everything that spins on the header, is the speed of that. The deck plates are the gap that the corn comes into, is in between those rows. Where the corn's disappearing, that's your deck plates, and you want to keep them tight to make sure no corn goes through the gap. Underneath the deck plates are the rollers that turn like this, and that's what's pulling the corn straight down. We're taking a bit of trash in, but a bulk of the plant is actually going on the ground. So those rollers spin round, and when you change your back shaft speed, that changes the speed of those rollers and everything that's spinning on the header. So if you want to go faster, you've got to have a faster back shaft speed. But those are the 2 settings you've got on a corn head. And then the rest is your unload and auger, fold out, in and out. The yellow one there is unloading, auger, engage to dump the grain. And then your auto track button is down here. And E is another programmable button you can put something else on.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a few on the back that you can't see, but that's why I have my feeder house tilt, the grain cart nudge for machine sync, and a couple of other bits, swap track.
So tell us a bit about these grain carts then, because they run in the tandem axle.
Yeah, that's a walk-in tandem, which is an offset walk-in tandem.
What's the reason for that then?
It's less rolling resistance. When you're trying to pull through a hole or a pivot track, not all your tyres hit the hole at the same time, so it takes less pulling. So it gives you more surface area, dual wheels, as opposed to having fat tyres, so they go down the row, but the walk-in tandem will get it over. We'll get it over bumps and holes better with less pull, basically. So they all have the scales on the side, the red display there, so we can see how much weight we got on. If we want to load legal, you can tell exactly how much you're putting on a truck, and we can just shut it off when we want to stop, rather than the grain cart having to tell us how much he's got on, because he can see the scales in his cab too. But that really helps us having that on the side. They all have that right now. But yeah, so here we got 2 1100s, which are 1,000 bushel, give or take 1,100 bushel, which is the truckload. Then we got one 1,300, which is slightly larger. Again, just so we got something different. It's essentially the same grain cart with greedy boards, with like silage-looking sides on it. Is all it is. The rest is the same. And we've ran these grain carts for a long time. We really like the Avalanche grain cart. 2 auger, so there's 1 cross auger in the bottom, and then the vertical one that folds. Some grain carts will just have a single auger on an angle down into the bottom of the pit, the bottom of the cart, whereas these ones have 1 auger that brings it forward and then a vertical auger that takes it up into the truck. And it just works really well for us, like we're loading in the road and on a ditch, and we can fold the grain cart auger down to get under power lines, and they just work really well for us. But it's a big auger. I mean, it'll dump it in 90 seconds if you open the whole door. It's a 27, 30 ton in 90 seconds. It'll come out in a hurry. It's a 2-foot auger, 600 mil.
Wow.
It's a big auger. It's bigger than this auger.
You can soon shift some stuff then, can't you? How fast does this thing unload?
I don't know what it is, 3 bushel a second or something.
Yeah.
I haven't got a clue.
It keeps stuff moving anyway.
Yes, it keeps stuff moving. The grain cart will dump faster than this will, for sure. And the 780 actually has a faster unload rate than the 770, because otherwise you can't get ahead. It's going in as fast as it's coming out, and you're just dumping for ages. Most people that have corn at home like this would be silage, would be maize.
So just explain a bit more about the whole corn harvest then, because it's certainly new to me and it will be new to people watching this, Sam. So where does it all go to and what's it all used for?
Well, first of all, it's very different to wheat. The combine's the same, it's set up differently. Obviously the header is different. We're not cutting the whole plant off like you do with wheat. You're just trying to take the cob of the corn, and that goes through the machine and gets thrashed. The same as wheat does, but it thrashes the corn off of the cob. And so we're just keeping the grain and the rest is going out the back. Inside, I mean, you have different concaves. You have to change concaves to cut corn. And there's different settings to eat, but the biggest change is the concaves inside a round bar concave, which are larger to let the bigger grain through, obviously. Wheat concaves are a lot smaller gap. So other than that, the combine's pretty similar. And a lot of this corn will go to either an ethanol plant or a feedlot, or just a general elevator, which is a place that buys the grain. They're just a grain merchant, and you can either take it on the day and they pay you what they're paying on the day, or you can contract grain. So a lot of places will contract their grain because normally that will get you a better price. Not always, but 9 times out of 10 you'll get a better deal if you can contract your grain in the winter or in the spring when you think you got a crop, and then you're contracted to take that grain to a certain place. So we've got a certain amount of bushels that we've got to take to certain places for this farmer, which is the bulk of half of it is going to the ethanol plant. And the grain that goes there we use to make biofuel, which is what a lot of the grain is grown for. And then another big chunk goes to the feedlot, which would have been the same sort of feedlot that the chopper guys in KB would have been hauling into, but we're just hauling the grain in, and so they feed that too. And they'll dry and they'll either steam it and crimp it or we'll just put it in the ration, you know.
So what's the benefit to, so they'll mix it all up anyway?
A lot of the time they'll mix it up,
Is there a benefit to just feeding the grain rather than chopping the whole plant, or?
You know, I don't know. I would think you get you more goodness. There's less volume, but there's probably more goodness. But I don't know enough about cattle, honestly.
Yeah,
to
well,
know what that is.
Neither do I.
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having a good chat with us anyway, Sam. I suppose I better get back out in the heat now and get some videos of you.